You know that person who laughs at absolutely everything? The one who finds humor in situations that would send most people into a spiral? Yeah, they've probably been through some stuff. And I'm not talking about a bad haircut in middle school. I'm talking about the kind of experiences that fundamentally rewire how you see the world. Let me paint you a picture. Someone cuts them off in traffic. Road rage? Nope. They're already mentally 3 steps ahead, wondering that driver is having a bad day, going through a divorce, or maybe just really needs to pee. Because when you survive your own storms, other people's rain showers just hit different. Here's what nobody tells you about people who've endured too much. Their brain literally operates on a different frequency. It's not broken. It's trained. Trained by necessity to become the survival masterpiece that's still learning how to exist in a world where the threat is no longer real. But there's something even stranger happening beneath the surface. These people develop what's basically an immunity to life's chaos. Not immunity to pain, but to being completely demolished by it. They've learned that survival isn't just possible, it's inevitable. This is where things take a turn. You'd think someone who's been through hell would be cynical, right? Bitter, closed off. But often it's the complete opposite. They become the most empathetic people you'll ever meet. And I mean aggressively empathetic. They can spot pain in others from a mile away because they've memorized that language fluently. A slight shift in your tone. They notice that forced smile. Yeah, they're already planning how to check in on you later without making it weird. They know how to read silence. Not just the absence of words, but the texture of it. Whether it's heavy, disappointed, irritated, or simply tired. They sense changes in atmosphere the way others sense changes in weather. Most people walk into a room and see furniture. They walk in and see emotional temperature. And here's something beautiful that comes from all this pain. They often experience what psychologist Richard Tedeschi calls post-traumatic growth. According to his research, about half to 2/3 of people who go through significant trauma don't just bounce back, they bounce forward. Their relationships deepen. Their priorities crystallize. Their appreciation for ordinary moments becomes almost comically intense. They'll literally tear up at a good sunset, and they're not even embarrassed about it. But then there's the part nobody warns you about. These same people often struggle with hypervigilance. Their threat detection system never fully turns off. Ever been to a restaurant with someone who needs to sit facing the door? Or someone who has 17 backup plans for a simple coffee date? That's not paranoia. That's a nervous system that learned the hard way that safety is a luxury, not a guarantee. And here's something that'll mess with you. They often downplay their own experiences constantly. Oh, it wasn't that bad. Other people have it worse. I'm fine. Really, it's like they've developed an allergy to being perceived as victims. They survive by telling themselves they're okay. So, admitting struggle feels like failure. The irony is almost painful. Let's talk about relationships for a minute. People who've been through too much often become either incredibly loyal or incredibly distant. Sometimes both simultaneously, which is as confusing as it sounds. They'll show up for you at 3 a.m. without hesitation, but ask them to be vulnerable about their own needs. Suddenly, they're busier than a one-armed juggler at a circus. Why? Because closeness has historically come with consequences. When your early experiences taught you that connection can be unpredictable, your nervous system doesn't relax when someone gets close. It braces. Many develop this contradiction, where they desperately want connection, but are terrified of depending on anyone, because dependence in their experience has come with a price tag. So they learn to need nobody, which sounds strong, until you realize it's also incredibly lonely. But then something remarkable happens that most people miss. These individuals become exceptionally good at adapting to change. New job? Sure. Moving cities? Why not? Entire life falling apart Tuesday. And the humor? Oh, the humor is next level. Dark humor specifically. It's not about being insensitive. It's about taking power away from pain. When you can laugh at the absurdity of your own suffering, it loses some of its grip. Comedy becomes armor. Every joke is a tiny rebellion against the things that try to break them. Now, here's something that might surprise you. People who've been through too much often have an intense relationship with control. They'll micromanage the smallest details of their life, while simultaneously being eerily zen about massive uncertainties. Why? Because they've learned that the big stuff is often beyond their control anyway, but the small stuff that they can manage. So yes, they'll have an existential crisis about which coffee mug to use while remaining totally chill about career uncertainty. The contradiction is the point. They're walking paradoxes. Tough but tender, guarded but generous, hopeful but realistic. They've learned that you can hold two opposing truths simultaneously. Life can be beautiful and brutal, often in the same breath. But here's what rarely gets acknowledged. There's a grief underneath all of this. Not the grief of losing someone, but the grief of losing themselves. They grieve the version who trusted easily, the version who laughed without checking the room first, the version who didn't rehearse conversations or anticipate danger in every silence. They grieve the self that felt light, the self that didn't worry about being too much or not enough, the self that moved through the world without tightening their chest at every uncertainty. How do you explain you miss a version of yourself you barely remember? How do you tell someone that you're homesick for a place that existed only inside your own mind? A childhood you didn't fully get to live, a softness you didn't get to keep, a freedom you learned about too late. This grief doesn't break them. It shapes them. It makes them quieter, more observant, more intentional. It turns them into someone who cherishes peace because they know the cost of chaos. Someone who values safe people because unsafe ones taught them how much it hurts. And maybe that's the real psychology here. People who've gone through too much don't just survive. They develop a complex, nuanced understanding of what it means to be human. They know that strength isn't about never falling apart. It's about how many times you can reassemble yourself, even when some pieces don't fit the same way anymore. Their survival became insight. Their pain became compassion. And without even noticing, they became something rare, a lighthouse. Not because their life was gentle, but because they learned to navigate storms that would have broken others. A lighthouse doesn't shine because it's perfect. It shines because it remembers the darkness. So the next time you meet someone who seems a little too okay with chaos, a little too comfortable with uncertainty, a little too quick to laugh at their own pain, just know they've earned that wisdom. Every joke, every boundary, every moment of unexpected depth, they've gone through too much. And somehow they're still here, still trying, still finding reasons of hope. That's not just psychology. That's poetry in motion. If you hit home with this, please subscribe. And if you want to support these deep dives, hit that join button to become a channel member. I would genuinely appreciate your support. Here are some more videos that I think you'll resonate.